What happened while we were away brought to you by I Need Some Benign and Innocent Explanations. The third crew member of the Black Hawk helicopter that collided with a commercial airline flight last week in Washington, D.C. has been named. Captain Rebecca Lobach was 28 years old and a native of Durham, North Carolina. She was a distinguished military graduate from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and commissioned in 2019 as an active duty aviation officer. Initially, her family asked the Army to withhold her name, asking for privacy. Lobach had 500 hours of flight time prior to the collision. 64 people were on board the commercial plane, which departed from Wichita, Kansas. 3 soldiers, including Lobach, were on board the helicopter. The exact cause of the crash is still being investigated. Donald Trump on Truth Social added this over the weekend, quote, "The Black Hawk helicopter was flying too high by a lot. It was far above the 200-foot limit. That's not really too complicated to understand, is it?" In Philadelphia, investigators are still trying to piece together why a medevac flight went down shortly after takeoff in a high-density area of that city. The aircraft was a Learjet 55 carrying a pediatric patient who had recently finished treatment at Shriners Children's Hospital, along with a parent and 4 crew members, all of whom reportedly were on their way back to Mexico. In addition to the 6 victims who were killed in the plane, Philadelphia Mayor Sherelle Parker said Saturday that a 7th person who was in a car at the time of the crash also died, along with other injuries on the ground after the plane exploded. What a disastrous couple of days in U.S. aviation. Moving on, begun the tariff wars have, with Donald Trump announcing a 25% tariff on most imports from Canada and Mexico and an additional 10% tariff on goods imported from China. In retaliation, Canada announced their own tariffs against U.S. imports because apparently tariffs are a terrible idea only when the United States does them. Additionally, for reasons only Allah knows, the province of Ontario has ordered its liquor stores to strip their shelves of American imports immediately, not after they're all sold, because that makes sense for some reason. Trump said last night there could be some short-term pain.
But long-term, the United States has been ripped off by virtually every country in the world. We have deficits with almost every country. Not every country, but almost. And we're going to change it. It's been unfair. That's why we owe $36 trillion.
Chuck Schumer, your thoughts?
Let's just take Super Bowl Sunday, okay? It's going to affect beer, okay? Most of it, Corona here, comes from Mexico. It's going to affect your guac, because what is guacamole made of? Avocados, both from Mexico.
Learning Chinese today. Today's phrase is, who drinks Corona out of a can?
谁喝罐装科罗娜?
Anyway, in completely unrelated news, Mexico completely capitulated this morning. Donald Trump said on Truth Social, quote, "I just spoke with President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico. It was a really friendly conversation wherein she agreed to immediately supply 10,000 Mexican soldiers on the border separating Mexico and the United States. These soldiers will be specifically designated to stop the flow of fentanyl and illegal immigrants into our country." So there's that. Some Trump wins over the past few days. He authorized a strike on ISIS operatives in Somalia on Saturday. The identity of those killed has not yet been revealed, but the president says there are no civilian casualties. The Department of Justice had ordered the FBI to fire 8 of its top officials involved with January 6th and sundry Hamas cases. Also, Trump, according to Elon Musk, is shutting down USAID or USAID, the preeminent international quote-unquote humanitarian development arm, wink wink, of the federal government. In 2023, USAID, which was established back in 1961, was dishing out American assistance in roughly 130 countries, with the biggest beneficiaries being Ukraine, Ethiopia, Jordan, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Somalia, Yemen, Taliban-controlled Afghanistan, Nigeria, South Sudan, and Syria. After a visit and an ultimatum from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Panamanian President Jose Raul Molino vowed Sunday to end a key development deal with China. Trump has, of course, pointed out China has way too much control and influence in the Central American country, a choke point for global shipping to and from American ports. All right. I know you've all been wondering what went down at the Grammys last night. Here are the top 5 moments, starting with recording artist Alicia Keys.
DEI is not a threat, it's a gift.
Okay, never mind. The Democrats have selected a new national chair. It's Ken Martin, leader of the Minnesota Democrat Farmer Laborers Party. Seen here, you might be tempted to think, hey, this may be smart, a white guy from the Midwest who's worked his entire adult life in Minnesota politics as the state went from purple to reliably blue. Here's a clip from the DNC's national meeting over the weekend where a handful of state party leaders were asked,
how many of you believe that racism and misogyny played a role in Vice President Harris's defeat? Okay. So that's good. You all pass.
Outgoing party boss Jamie Harrison told CBS News.
Should Kamala Harris run again?
Yes, she wants to.
You think she could win?
I believe she can.
Oh, and Democrats also elected David Hogg as vice chair of their national party. The Parkland High School mass shooting survivor who rode the tragedy to fame as a gun grabber. Apparently, Democrats emerged from their den over the weekend, saw their shadow, and now we're looking at 6 more years of cultural Marxism. Good luck with that. And finally, a special message from Canadian Prime Minister Justin Castro.
Years ago, we bet big on electric vehicles, and we think that in a few years, everybody's going to be driving an electric vehicle, except they're like $90,000, and most of the people who are in Canada are actually Indian people who live off one Uber Eats delivery an hour. So, listen folks, if you're not driving an EV in the winter and getting stuck in the snow and not being able to charge it, then you're doing something wrong. Why would you want one of those big gas guzzlers when you can have one of these sexy, sleek, homosexual vehicles that track your every movement and can be shut off by the government at any moment if we deem your behavior inappropriate? My name is Justin Trudeau, and I stand for anything that people think is gay.
And that's what happened while we were away.